opening quote for today says, "The world is like a silent film. You write the script." Terrence the Teacher. Welcome to today's episode of the Afrocentrist podcast. Today on the show, I'm going to be talking to a very prolific person who goes by the name Terrence the Teacher. Yes, you got that right. His quote was our opening quote for the day. Celebrated clinical hypnotherapist and mindfulness well-being expert, Terrence the Teacher is the go-to meditation coach for the world's top brands, business leaders, and influencers. Starting his career in the health and fitness industry as a personal trainer and Pilates instructor, he soon became aware of the powerful connection between the mind and the body. In 2001, his intrigue and passion led him to the world of Neurolinguistics, where he trained and qualified under the co-founder of the movement, Dr. Richard Bandler. He became a certified clinical hypnotherapist in the same year, obtaining a diploma in clinical hypnotherapy through the Institute of Clinical Hypnosis. You can find out more about Terrence by visiting his website at www.terrencetheteacher.com. All right, guys, welcome back to this Afrocentrist podcast. And I'm so delighted and very excited. You can hear it in my voice, but I'm excited to be here today because I'm talking to a very huge coach in the world of mindfulness. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy this talk with Terrence the Teacher. Remember that this month of November, we are spotlighting Africans who are doing amazing work in their chosen field. And Terrence here is a therapist, and he's going to be talking about mindfulness a little bit. But before we go into that, we're going to be meeting him and knowing a little bit more about him. How are you, Terrence? How are you doing today?
I'm doing so well, Ijero. Thank you for having me on. Excited, just like you, for this conversation.
Thank you so much for being here. So I'm going to kind of start with some trivia questions, and then we'll go into the deeper stuff. Let's start on a lighter note, right? Are you okay with that?
Very okay with that, yeah.
Cool. Your logo is a T with a little curve at the edge. And then I look at your picture and I'm like, I see that edge, like the hairstyle you have on. Was that intentional?
I have to admit, most probably yes. One of my trademarks is I always take something that could have been a negative and I try and turn it into a positive. So as a child, I had this little cow's lick in the front of my head. So my hair always stood up and I was always mocked with my funny hair. And then I decided as I grew that I was going to have the most beautiful hair and hairstyles. And I think my hair looks quite good these days. I get a lot of compliments. And then, so when I got to creating my business and I looked at the T and I thought, you know what, I could use my little cow's lick or this little bit of my hair that stands up quite naturally and make it, it's part of who I am and turn it in a real positive. And there you've got it, T, the logo.
That's really fantastic that you even personally came up with that concept. I love it. So you are from South Africa, yes?
That's correct.
What part of South Africa are you from?
So born in Johannesburg, then grew up in Pretoria, and then back to Gauteng, Johannesburg. Yeah.
Can you just tell us a little bit of what was growing up like for you in South Africa?
I think I don't know. I know this is going to sound funny to you, but I'm almost going to say I was one of the lucky ones, and then I'm going to tell you my story, and then you're going to go, really? So my mom was unfortunately murdered when I was very young. So when I was 2 months old, and they sort of found me on a body in the street. So it was a family thing. So, and I don't know if you really want to go into it, but so I immediately got taken in, obviously, into welfare and into care. So I think, as a baby, I was looked after by nuns, and then I went into an orphanage. And then obviously in the orphanage, a lot of different foster cares, often back to the orphanage, sometimes back to foster care. At some point, the family took me on and gave me their surname, but it didn't turn out to be a very good situation. So by the age of 16, I decided just to walk away from that situation, and I went and lived under a tree for a few days because I just thought my life was more important than what was happening in that situation. And yeah, I found my own way. I found a way to find work. I somehow finished school. Don't know how I did that. And I just decided, I was going to give myself more opportunities and better opportunities in this life. But when I say why I think it was quite a privilege is that I didn't come from the privileged background. So I wasn't one of the people that had everything. I was one of those people that were looked at, mocked, and I had to fight. I had to fight to become something. But what it made me do is it made me look around, and I looked at other people that were also fighting their own battles to be recognized, to be noticed, and I felt more an affinity with people than I think I would have if I didn't have this background that I've got.
So do you think that this background led you into the path that you are on now? Like, did you know from that little age that this was what you were going to be, or how did you come into this space of starting from health, being a health fitness coach, down into mindfulness coach?
When I was 8 years old, I had a dream, and the dream told me that I was going to stand in front of thousands of people and be teaching and be a teacher.
Wow.
And I've always thought I'm going to be a teacher. And I remember when I went, after I studied, when I finished school, I couldn't unfortunately go to university and all that stuff because there was no money. I didn't have, the family background, support. But I always thought, I want to be a teacher. I'm going to be a school teacher or something. But I had to sort of figure out my own way. And then I became a physical trainer or, coach. So that was already a form of teaching. Then I became a Pilates teacher. So that was a form of teaching. And then I realized, there was other things that I was interested in, which was the mind. So I went into clinical hypnosis and I started teaching people how, to delve into their subconscious. And then eventually I found mindfulness. And now I teach people how to breathe, meditate, how to, connect with their sleep, their sleeping patterns. So I became a teacher. And if you look at my name, I am Terrence the Teacher.
Terrence the Teacher. Wow, I love it. I mean, for me, your story is quite inspiring because I feel like without so much guidance, you caught your vision quite early. You recognized it that, okay, this is it. I'm going to be a teacher. And see how life or the universe, God, how it all brought it out together. That even though you didn't teach in a formal institute or anything like that, but you ended up really being a teacher. So I really think that this part of the story is quite inspiring, knowing that, yes, you could say, yes, maybe you were one of the lucky ones who was able to decipher what they want to be just via a dream. But still, I think there are a lot of young people out there who might listen to this, who also have those dreams, but didn't even take it to be anything, probably because they have all the support that they need. And sometimes I feel like this support that people sometimes have actually dissuade them from pursuing that thing that they've seen for themselves. Or what do you think? What's your thought on that? Like for parenting, right? Do you think that if you had the privileges or the support system, do you think you might still have gone ahead to say you wanted to be a teacher?
Look, anything is possible, I think, but you're right. At the moment, for instance, I do work, with quite a lot of privileged people because obviously just where I'm based, where my offices are, it's people that do have money, I suppose. And so I work with kids that are going to Oxford, and I've got kids that are going to Harvard. And you can see the parents are directing them. But then when you speak to the kids, you can see that the kids are just allowing the system to take them wherever because they haven't really personally formalized what they want to be or not. But I think if I could ever give advice, is I think you've got to broaden your perspective and your dreams and your hopes and your vision. So what I did is that even though, yes, I thought I wanted to be a teacher, I realized that step one is I had to survive. I had to look after myself. I needed to be healthy. I needed to educate myself in whichever way I could, even if it wasn't diplomas and certificates, find things that interested me. And I had to take care of my mental health. I had to sleep well. And I had to really embrace life, because life was a gift and it was around me. And the only way that I was going to get anywhere is if I engaged with it. So if I locked myself up, or if I went into hiding, or if I withdrew, any opportunity might be missed. So every day that I woke up, I was like, this is another opportunity for something amazing to happen. And I even say that to the privileged kids. It's like, listen, even if this is not where you want to go, be present in every moment, because there will be one person or one thing that you might, and it will just stir something in you. And then you will follow it, and then another door will open. Just keep being there, being present in the moment, 100%. And life, whatever your beliefs is, God, the universe, will surprise you.
Interesting. I love that piece of advice. It really makes a lot of sense. Yes. So I was watching one of your videos, and you mentioned that one of your goals is to tell people what mindfulness is not. I loved that. Because okay, yeah, everybody says mindfulness. What is mindfulness not? Can you shed a little light on that?
Well, strangely enough, mindfulness is not the mind being full of things, because it's actually it's the mind empty of things in that moment when you practice mindfulness. So that's what it's not, because if you look at the word, because I love words, and we give words meaning, but in the end, if you look at mindful, you would think,
my mind should be
that's
full.
actually the problem. Is we want the mind to be empty and to be quiet and relaxed. And then the other thing with mindfulness, when people come to me, is that people have this idea that you've got to sit on a yoga mat with candles and a turban and make all these funny sounds or whatever it is, and for an hour or 2 hours, and and have birds and bees in the background, or maybe a beautiful waterfall. And it's not. Being mindful is a way of living. It's a way, again, of engaging with what life offers you, but just in the moment. You could be mindful with this talk that we're having, because I'm only focused on you. I'm only focused on our topic, and that's it. Not thinking about what's happening later, not thinking about what I'm saying in 2 minutes or in 10 minutes. I'm here with you answering this question. Fully engaged. That's being mindful. That's being present. So you can take that concept into everything you do. Having a cup of tea, drinking it slowly, tasting it, thinking about, where in the mouth do you feel the different taste, or notice it. Swallow. What happens when you swallow? How does it feel? And you can do it with a walk. You can do it with, so many things. And I think this is where I wanted people to understand, is that it's not just this, I've got to be sitting there doing all these weird things. It's a way of living. And then the other thing is as well, and this is sort of the third big thing about what mindfulness is not, is people always say to me, I can't silence my mind.
Tell me about it.
Now, let me just tell you, if you silence your mind, you are dead. Because the mind is a wandering mind. That's how it operates. That's how it works. That's how it makes all the body parts function. So please, we don't want a silent mind. Wow. You're never going to get there. It's impossible, except if you go on to the other side, which I did do, by the way, a few years ago when I had my 2 cardiac arrests, and one lasted 20 minutes. So you can't silence it, but what you can create is gaps. moment, pure openness, where all that noise goes to such a frequency that you become aware of other things. And it's the other things that is the peaceful things. It's the calm things. It's the things that nurture you. It's the thing that brings your blood pressure down, that slows down the heart rate. So don't search for silence because it's not there. Search just for that moment or that few moments, and eventually they will just lengthen and you'll be able to maintain them for longer.
With practice, yeah.
And that is where the benefit will come. And I think that's why I always say I want people to understand what mindfulness is not.
Fantastic. I think it's super clear what mindfulness is not. Now, leading from that, what are some simple ways to create those gaps in the mind, especially when we feel like the noise is becoming overwhelming? You know, those times where it's like, oh my God, it feels like my head is about to burst. How can we create those gaps where we move the mind to the peaceful things, the quiet things? Should you give a tip or two on how to do that?
So you need to think about it a little bit scientifically. So when our brain is very noisy, it runs at a very fast speed called beta waves. If you slow the brain waves down to alpha waves, that's when you experience that gap or that peace or that calmness. So the whole goal is to get your brain wave from beta to alpha.
Okay.
And all that is, it's slowing down. So one of the ways to slow down alpha waves is doing something repetitive. So for instance, if you sit and you just focus in on your breathing, and you just sit and you go breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, and you just do it for 5 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever. Eventually what it will do is, because you are directing your thoughts towards one thing on purpose in the present moment, you can actually see on brain scans how the wave slows down. And it eventually will become alpha. It's almost you boring that busy part of the brain into alpha waves.
Fantastic.
And that's how you then create those moments of peace. And it's in that alpha wave, but funny enough, that you find blood pressure drops, heart rate slows down, immune function increases. It's got so many benefits.
Yeah, so that means that the more you practice that and the more you are able to, say, linger on in that state for a while, the better you enjoy the benefits that comes with it.
Yeah, I always say you've got to do your own PR, practice and repetition. Because the more you PR or the more you practice and repeat, because eventually, like now, if I go and sit down, my subconscious mind's already made that connection to, when he sits down, he's going to breathe in or meditate or whatever I do. My brain waves already start slowing down even before I started. Because it learns by association.
I see.
So eventually, it's like when you do physical exercise. If you run the first time, it's such hard work and you will burn a certain amount of calories. By the time you've done it for 2-3 months, it's so much easier. And funny enough, you'll burn less calories because the body's got used to the process.
Oh, wow. You see.
Yeah, so the body learns through repetition.
Fantastic. Wow. I'm learning.
It is actually quite simple and it's so scientific if you actually really get to know your body. And the benefits are immensely. It's not just to be cool and, I'm doing what everyone else is doing. You're helping yourself with this practice. You making your body better. You're giving your mind breathing space. In alpha waves, we function so much better. Another thing to know is that every part of your brain has different functions, and they all run at different speeds. So your prefrontal cortex, which is maybe to do with memory, runs at a speed. Your amygdala, which is your fight and fright center, where your anxieties and your fears sit so that you can run away from the danger, runs at another speed. So often you'll find that if you're trying to remember something, if your fight and flight or your anxiety is so high, there's the part of the brain that's working with that is going so fast that your prefrontal cortex, the other part that deals with memory, can't be heard.
True.
So it's like if you're in a room and everyone is screaming above each other, who's going to be heard? So if you slow down your brainwave, what they find, all the parts of the brain starts running at the same speed. And if you can run all of them at alpha speed, you can actually hear yourself. And then suddenly that thing that you wanted to remember where it was, suddenly you remember. And you go, oh.
Wow.
Simple.
Yeah, I love the concept of saying, you know what, don't make a big deal out of it. Just make it a part of your life and just keep practicing until you get better, that your body begins to, like when you want to move into that zone of quietness, it's quicker. The process is quicker because
much quicker, because it knows where to go.
Yeah.
I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, so I obviously hypnotize people and I take them into alpha, sometimes even theta state. But the more a client sees me, sometimes I just say to them, close your eyes, and they already go there. And it's not me that has the power. It's their brain that knows, we know what this is going to do. So the brain takes them there.
Oh, wow. Your work must be really interesting and exciting. Let me ask this.
I love what I do.
I know. Let me ask you this funny question. Have you ever worked with a client that felt like you can't help them?
Often. A lot of people. Because, as much as, clinical hypnotherapy is something that we talk about, especially, it's not, something that sort of a lot of people still accept or know about or trust. So I find often when people come to me, I'm almost the last resort. So they will come to me and go, listen, nothing has worked. I'm sure you're not going to be able to help me. Often when people are quite desperate, they'll come to me. So yes, I've often had people that think that I can't help them. And my first response is always, yes, I can't, because you have to do it. I can guide you. I can give you techniques. I can teach you. I can share with you, my methods. But in the end, it's you that has to make the change.
Your ultimate ambition is to help many or as many people as possible as you can. How would you rate that? How is that going for you as of now in your career? I
think quite well. And even, I have to say, even the situation that we are in at the moment with the corona, because a lot of things have gone online.
Yes.
So suddenly a lot of people have reached out to me saying, can you do an Instagram live? Can you do a podcast? Can you do a YouTube? Can you write a blog for us? And obviously, whoever those companies or those people are, because they wanted to give their members or their followers something, to engage with, also something that would help them. Obviously, what it's done for me, I reach more people.
True.
So I think at the moment it's going very well. Obviously, I've been very lucky. I mean, and I think you've seen my profile. I've met the right people over the last few years, especially since I moved to the UK. By meeting the right people, being in the right place at the right time, my platform has increased. So I've been very lucky in that. And so I think it's going very well.
That's great.
You are helping me as well today.
Oh, really? How?
To reach another group of people that I wouldn't have. So thank you.
True. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, what happened to taking the weight off your mind, the app? I was trying to look for it.
Yeah, so, when those apps came out, as you know, my weight loss app as well as the insomnia app, this one for sleep, they both went to number 1 on Google App Store. Yeah. But when I brought them out in 2014, there was about only 50 other hypnotherapy apps on the stores. I mean, many other things, but hypnosis wasn't that sort of big. If you go onto those stores now, there's about 50,000. So after I launched the apps, I obviously had my personal event, my 2 cardiac arrests. So I took off for 2 years. And then as I slowly came back, I needed to consider, did I want to renew them? Did I want to update them? Or did they do their thing and was it time? And last year, I just decided, you know what? Especially the weight loss app helped so many people. I still have people contacting me now saying my app changed them. But I think it had its moment in the spotlight. I think it's time for me to create something different, something more engaging, something more interactive, because those apps were just me talking, doing hypnosis. So I've taken them off and I'm working
on
and
something.
thinking on what is the next way to bring something back to the public.
Fantastic. Well done. I mean, you have done so well for yourself. Tell us one last thing before you go. Tell us something that most people don't know about you.
Oh, wow. That's an interesting one. Well, I think the thing that maybe might surprise people is, and I don't know, just because of society, maybe that I've been single for 20 years.
Are you kidding me? Say what? Why?
Yeah. Well, it's just, I think that, I think you can have different types of commitments and relationships. And I find that my work has become quite important to me. So maybe I've created a very strong relationship with that. So I've got great friends. I've got, amazing clients that often also become friends. But yeah, I'm so focused on what I do and I love my work and my life. And maybe that's just not something at the moment or for the last few years, 20, that I've really needed.
20 years isn't few. But are you thinking of it at all? Or it's like, you know what, this is not for me?
I think that, one thing we have to understand, different strokes for different folks. And it's very important, to allow for the possibility that you might not just, be like everyone else, or you might just do something a little bit different. And you know what? That's okay.
Yeah.
You are okay being different. And I think that's what I've also accepted with myself, is that there's no, oh, should I, why don't I? No, I'm okay as I am for now. And I am loving every minute of the experience.
It has been a pleasure talking to you. So thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate your being on the Afrocentrist podcast. If you would like to say one shout out or one last thing to the audience, what would that be?
Life is a gift. And yes, sometimes it's hard and sometimes we struggle. Keep going, keep doing your best, because I've seen it in my own reality. Sometimes before you know it, things change and then it smiles at you.
Fantastic. It's been a pleasure one more time. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic day.
Now to the current affairs. WhatsApp is rolling out its new disappearing messages feature for users. While the feature sounds similar to that offered by apps like Telegram, Snapchat, Signal, and Wire, it is slightly different as the Facebook owner messaging service has a fixed period of time after which the messages will get deleted. The other apps give users the option to select the time period for which they want to keep the message before it is deleted. You can read more about this on economicstimes.indiatimes.com. Dubai launches digital school to educate 1 million refugee children over 5 years. A digital school that seeks to provide an education to 1 million refugee and underprivileged children over the next 5 years launched from Dubai on Wednesday, the 11th of November 2020. The Mohammed bin Rashid Global Initiative is behind the project that will see the first batch of pupils join the school, that is digitalschool.org, in September 2021. You can read more about this by visiting www.thenationalnews.com. That will be all on the show today. Until next week, when I return with yet another outstanding guest doing amazing work in their field, do remain amazing yourself. Bye-bye.